Hey everybody, this is Chanchai. Welcome to this episode of REVO Reviews, where I review replays from battles that we fought. At least for now. In the future, I'll be able to review battles of other players. However, that feature is not available yet. It's coming in the future patch. However, today we're going to review a couple games by Kasano. There's a couple themes I do want to go over and just kind of illustrate. So we're going to get into it, and here we go. So Kasano is an up-and-coming genre player who has been steadily growing and doing very, very well. At the moment, he has internalized a lot of stuff like the core basics of the boxing. He's responding with a good flow between offense and defense, but I do want him to improve his where he is. He has more opportunities that he can take advantage of, and so it's like the next step in his growth is to really do it. Like right now, he's still doing more of his big damage, sometimes in the neutral, or sometimes because an opponent made an error, which is really good. He's kind of just playing the core boxing in sometimes a less interactive way, and so we just want to step up that interaction. He is doing well, and he does do the things that we're going to illustrate today, but we're going to point out where he might have not done it as much, or just wasn't there yet in terms of like sharply executing whenever the opportunity comes. Now, you don't have to be 100%, and each time it is a decision, so I'm not saying you always have to do this, but I'm just going to point out where the opportunity exists. But the two things I'm going to focus today is, first, I'm actually going to focus on the Okizeme at the start because of this replay, and second, I'm going to be focusing on creating Nitaku situations. These are kind of the areas I've kind of identified, at least in these early replays from like a week ago, and I think it will lead to some big results. So that said, sometimes when you do Okizeme, you are at a risk, and you are taking a risk because you're kind of doing a gamble. But generally, if you're the one doing the Okizeme, you have all the advantage. It's really hard for someone to actually blow you up. They have to guess really well and execute pretty well. So in this case, we're going to show a powerful Leon wake-up game, but we are going to also show how Kusano could have just, with a higher chance of winning the situation, exerted a little stronger Okizeme. So let's get to that. So we start out this fight, and here he gets this beautiful sweep. This sweep here is a wonderful one. So Jean's sweep is really good. The more certain you are that your opponent is going to evade, the better this sweep is. If you're trying to crack their high guard, generally throw is better, and eventually the guard break, but the guard break can be seen, and so guard break is not really in the picture until you've applied a lot of pressure as Jean. If you apply no pressure on your opponent, then they can respond to a guard break. But throwing is really always solid because it does good damage against both standing guard, as long as they don't guess the throw escape correctly, and evade, again, as long as they don't guess the throw escape correctly. But again, it's generally in your favor, and even John, who's got a lopsided throw game where most of the damage is on forward, you at least want to skill check your opponent and use throws like that. But in this case, he did the exact really strong harder read, which is the sweep, and it really nails me for doing that, and this sets up a wonderful Okizeme opportunity. And let's see if he takes that Okizeme opportunity. He knocks it down, but instead he just moves down and he gets some damage, but look, I've already almost equaled that damage just by doing this wake up game. Very risky on my part because I went with uppercut, and most of the time, as long as you're striking within a certain frame of certain range of frames, you, as the Jean player, you would actually be beating this uppercut. But this uppercut can cheat a little bit. It's a special move of Leon's that this uppercut can cheat whether it's online or offline, and so I end up doing way more, right? He did not apply the Okizeme, and generally there are different ways you can apply Okizeme. You can zone it out, or you can apply it directly. Now, I am going to advocate that he should apply it directly. Jean is actually pretty good with Okizeme, and you need to learn it. And you want to learn you want to get good at doing the direct Okizeme. If you always zone, it is good, but it's possible as a player to get too passive with it and just only do that. You really want to learn the Okizeme game, especially if you're playing Jean. So let's go rewind this back here. So we're going to rewind over here, and we're going to identify when he does this sweep and that this is going to land. We know this sweep will land, so we're going to go ahead and take over at this point as Jean. And I'm going to say that with Jean, you can do a crouch dash into another 3-3-P. So I actually recommend inputting 3-3-3, responding with that. But in this case, let's say because he knows his sweep, he's going to do the 3-3 right away. There's two variations. If he does the 3-3 right away, he's actually trying to land the knee follow-up. So 3-3-P, then K. So we're going to do that. Bam, right? And that is what we get for doing that. And from that, he's roughly, I think he's +6, and so with that +6 you can do another attack. You can do up to like an 18, or technically against Leon a 17 if you're worried about his high jab. I wouldn't worry, I would just still do the 8 up to 18, but Jean can do a knee. But if he wants to do something safer, he can do something else. But let's do that again, and this time with the knee. Okay, so this time we had a slightly later one because I didn't sync with the replay here. But that other one is what I'm going to get back to. So let's go do the 3-3-P-K right away into knee. We got to get used to the buffering though. Right? So, and we can do a lot of combo even when we improvise when we mess it up. So let's do that again. So. Right? And on top of that, there's more Okizeme when we do it. So let's do it again, and let's do that Okizeme I talked about, the 3-3-P-K. Alright? It's kind of the same thing. So... and we can do that follow-up right there. 3-3-P-K, that's a lot of damage. That Okizeme didn't put us at a great risk. We were okay if they guarded, actually. So we're just in another guessing game if they do defend it, but the damage has already been done here. So it's really huge here. Now I'm going to show the delayed one because actually a lot of times we do want to do this 3-3-3-P-K. So this time I'm going to do 3-3-3-P-K and show how even in this situation it works. It is a little risky because of Leon being so aggressive on the wake up, but don't be afraid of that. That's a very low chance for Leon to actually do that, especially if you land the 3-3-P. If you get the hit frames right, that uppercut actually is not really going to beat a move like 3-3-P. But what it can do is that if you do the 3-3-P too early, you whiff, and then the kick follow-up can be interrupted by this uppercut. So that's the only thing that we're worried about. But generally speaking, the odds are in Jean's favor. He should be doing an Okizeme like this or similar. There's many Okizemes Jean can do. This is just one of many, but I encourage Kusano to start integrating this one because it's a really basic one, and it's one where almost all of Jean's knockdowns can use this 3-3-3-P. And we're going to show that later throughout the day. So see right there, and it's really strong. It's very, very strong, right? And after that we're like +1 after that kick hits. So after that +1 we can just low punch. Boom. Right? We can high punch too, but low punch is a little better unless Leon starts using 8K. If Leon goes 8K, we would switch to high punch. But in this game, he doesn't have reason to worry about that yet, and he's already done a lot of damage just doing all this stuff, just doing that sweep, doing that 3-3-P-K, and then possibly the low punch. Let's look at that again. Right? That's half of Leon's life. So again, Okizeme is a huge opportunity. He should do it, especially when you knock somebody down with the sweep. Really, really good. And like, let's say he doesn't, let's say he only normal hits with the sweep. This 3-3 turns into a crouch dash, which can turn into a fuzzy guard. He can end up doing that 3-3. He realizes he only got the normal hit, then he's just gonna guard, and that's perfectly fine. Or he could attack. It's up to him. But he has lots of options, and crouch dashing is not bad. Crouch dashing is great. Even when you're -2, crouch dashing is great. Crouch dashing is awesome when you're -5. It's really, really great. So So I definitely encourage players to crouch dash more often, but in this case we're talking about that Okizeme. Jean has the 3-3-P. He can use it as 3-3-3-P. That's basically the first 3-3 becomes a crouch dash, and then the third 3-P becomes another crouch dash, but also the start of our 3-3-P. So you can combine moves that way. You can combine movement and moves. It's really important to do that in this game. So we're gonna resume replay. We're gonna watch how this fight goes. So again, sweep. He did nothing, but then he ends up eating a lot of this. And you can see that my Okizeme's already applied pressure here. Now, in this case, what does he do? Okay, so that's fine. He jabbed and we evaded. He's at a lot of advantage though. So actually this jab, he could have followed through and attacked. So right now, this happened, but let's rewind that a bit just to kind of show that jab is a special move. This high punch, when they evade it, you get to attack again. So you should almost always just actually intentionally, the only time high jab is in trouble is when they duck it or it just flat out whiffs. But when it whiffs from evade, it's still really good because this evade takes about 23 frames and this jab is like doesn't have many frames at all. It's like 30 or so. So a lot of times you can still just strike right away after, and if they try to do something, now this low punch might be the only thing that could give them trouble, right? So let's try doing low punch here at this spot. Okay, we're just gonna do it in low punch. So low punch is probably the only thing that was gonna get us, but we didn't take too much damage, right? So a lot of times you can let's rewind this a little bit because actually he did punch and okay, so he gets this. So we're gonna do high jab, low jab is what we're gonna record ourselves doing. Probably not the best. There we go. See how that works? See how that works? High jab, low jab, right? Let's try high jab elbow because this is really good, but you gotta guard cancel it. So you gotta do PG and then elbow. See? That still worked. It's really important to do this. It's really like high jab is actually trying to bait them into they would have to evade the high jab like on the first 2 frames or really early, like in the first few frames for them to have advantage. If they evade it late, like on the 7th frame or later, generally the high jab has created an advantage for the person that did the high jab. The evade is at a disadvantage. It's a very special case, and high jab is a really good way to bait and trap somebody that's doing an evade. So again, now that was just a little slow on the replay. Let's do this fast again. Boom, right? And this was a full commitment. So we do punch, then we hit the guard to cancel, so we're not doing punch punch string, and then we do forward and punch 6P for elbow, right? Let's try again. Right, and let's get greedier. Let's use our 15 frame attack. Now 15 frames too greedy, that's not gonna happen, right? Yeah, not gonna happen. But jab elbow is really good, jab low punch really good, right? Jab low punch pretty secure except for the fact that they can crush with 8K, but the elbow is very secure. So in this case, we had Nitaku, we can just bait the evade into that. Of course, it is better to just throw. As we said earlier, if you think someone's going to evade, throwing is really good. Let's do throw. Throw is really good here, right? We do about 55 damage. We do about 65 damage, right? That's forward throw. Of course, if we do back throw, 55 is nothing to sneeze at. Still pretty good. And repositions us. It repositions. And the repositioning cannot be understated how good that is. And of course, we always have neutral. These are good, fine ways to punish somebody that's evading. It's very clean. It's cleaner than doing jab elbow or jab low punch, but jab elbow, jab low punch are still very, very good and protect us from some weird plays. But it protects us from like aggression, from them attacking, unless they do a crouching attack. And so, but low punch doesn't get the same benefit as the high punch. The low punch, they evade, they'll have a small advantage. But this high punch, when they evade, they're at a small disadvantage, and we can use that. So again, we can go like boom, boom, right? And then we can go back to the beginning. if we're so certain that they're going to evade, sweep is really good, right? And then we can do this. And look at that, how much damage it is when they don't tech roll, right? Boom. Really good. Try it one more time. Boom. 63 damage. And there's other Okizeme that Jean has too. That's just one. So I hope you can see the value of the Okizeme. We've talked about how to really how to deal with evading when somebody sidesteps. In VF, people will sidestep when they are minus, when we are plus. In this case, we were +7 from guarding Leon's sidekick. Really, really important to understand that relationship, because the more advantage we have, the easier it is for them to actually do a sidestep. Because in VF, generally speaking, when you do a sidestep, for it to even have a chance to be successful, it has to occur during the execution frames of an attack. Or if they're far away, I guess technically it could be during the hit frames, but that's very unlikely, and unless you're spaced out. So evading, very, very strong, but at the same time has ways to beat it. Jean's ways to beat it. The standard is throw, because throw beats standing guard and evade. But if he's that certain they're gonna do it, sweep is quite good. It's quite good. It's very fast. So, all right, let's go ahead and watch more of this match. Very good. Now, the only reason I don't follow through on this is because I actually thought it was going to go over the fence, but at this point I should have definitely just done an extra hit, but I didn't. And then I realized that, so when I realized I'm a bit late and I can get kind of whacked out, I decided to space it out and maybe zone if he tries to do something like rising attack. So here we see two 4K Ps. Let's rewind both of them really quick to just kind of show what we could have done here. This is a good time to illustrate. It's a good time to illustrate this Okizeme that we talked about. So we're going to replay takeover. See, and this one is a bit farther, so it's harder, and he tech rolls. That's okay. We still get the kick. So we still get the kick, right? This is quite good. Boom, right? And what will we do? We know that if we get the normal hit, we just do low punch because it's +1. And if they start trying to crush the low punch, we high punch or do some other stuff, but it's really cool. So let's do this again. All right, that's the downside, is if that happens, boom, right? And we're pretty okay. And after that low punch is blocked, we can just crouch dash. Now in this case, I actually prepared to try to low parry. So I was trying to be tricky and I went a step ahead, but so the low parry, if it had timed well, could have done some damage here. But again, it's a harder play to do. Make your opponent do the harder plays. And then if they're consistent with it, then you got to play around it. But a lot of times, just make them do the harder play. All right, let's resume this. And then we have this again, right? One more time, this thing happens. So we're gonna rewind it to about here. We're gonna take over. And then boom, right? But now this is showing you the weakness of this, but we didn't pay much of a price. The upside was really high. So then now it's just, so this case, now we can try another variation, but I don't want to get too in the weeds too much, but I am going to go here where I'm going to show that he can kind of do circular, but actually this is not going to showcase how good this is. It's going to showcase that how strong evade crouch dash actually is, because evade crouch dash is kind of undermining this whole Okizeme. I didn't, for me, I think it's just my experience fighting John that becomes a good thing to do, so it's just something I do. And so you're going to have to eventually punish this, and so we'll show that, but first we'll show this other option that might lose to it. Right? And we'll try it again. See how I ducked under that? That's because I did ECD. So now, something like this, let's try something like this. Throw, right? Because we think that they might do, if we start thinking that they ECD, just a heads up, we think they're gonna evade on wake up, which is very risky, but I do that. Going up and throwing them is pretty good, but you gotta time it right? And this definitely shows that I was doing evade crouch dash. Alright, so just giving some illustrations, and yes, I am showing counterplay. Here's the thing, just because counterplay exists doesn't mean you don't do something. you let your opponent do the hard thing first before you play around that. Let them prove themselves first. Skill check your opponent. It's an important thing to do. It's information, and that information will make you a stronger player. Alright, anyways, so here, that's where my ECD got under his throw attempt because it was just a little late, but it was the right idea. So he did try to do one of the things we talked about here. So again, you can kind of see the opportunity for Okizeme, and the Okizeme is really big. Like, not going for it is... Like, going for it, it has a high chance of winning. It really does, despite having countermeasures, but you can deal with the countermeasures as they come. So here I'm going to show like how this happened, because this is just a good thing for people to know. Beautiful thing about setting up, how did I set up this, like, how did I get him to attack backwards? It's not really that. It's 2 steps. It's 3 steps really. The first step, I ducked under his high punch here, and then I did a spin kick, and it counter hit him because he did try to attack, and it forces him into side turn. This is a counter hit. This attack forces him into side turn. So now he's side turned. Now immediately with this +8 advantage, but also without hesitating, I go ahead and attack. I do one of my best attacks here, and he does defend it. Side kick. But now he is still in side turn because I did that, even though he guarded it. And so technically I'm -4. Technically I could fuzzy guard here at -4, and it would be very strong. But what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to evade to his back. And if he doesn't attack that's evaded that way, he will end up, I will end up being behind him. And that's what happens here. See? It's not that he attacked away, it's that I evaded. Is that basically at -4, and he attacked, I evaded to his back after forcing him side turn. So I forced him into side turn. Let's rewind this. I forced him into side turn, right? Let me go back to where this is. It's right about here. Yeah. So I forced him into side turn. Then I pressured with an attack with the advantage I had, and then I evaded with the disadvantage I had. And then now I'm at his back, and I can show, and I'll show you the real consequence of this, because even though I didn't fully make use of this, let's show what you can do with take over Leon here. So like Leon can do this, right? And a lot of characters have something like that on back turn. So I just want to illustrate how to do it, but also in the process of explaining how to do that, it's not that I expect players to do this. I want them to actually just understand the concepts of evade, how it works. This video should help you understand how evade works. It's something you do at minus. If you do it at plus, you will fail automatically, because your opponent has to be in the startup frames of an attack. They could be in the attack frames, but you have to be out of range for it to work that way. And then but then again, also understanding that there are moves that force side turn, and then when an opponent is in side turn, simply like if you do attack them right away, then most of the time they'll be stuck in side turn. Now if you do some strings will kind of break the side turn, and some attacks are so slow that your opponent will recover in time to no longer be side turned. So if your opponent recovers fast enough, they'll be facing forward again. If you do certain strings, then most strings will lead to them no longer being side turn, but some strings can sustain the side turn. Leon's PKP sustains side turn. It's really strong. It's one of his best tools is to do PKP when they're side turn. Alright, so we had good fights, really good evasion battles. This is good stuff. This low kick commitment was very good. This is Sabaki. It's okay. His doing a kick was fine, but if the meaty timing is not perfect, Leon can Sabaki kicks, and it's very strong. So he gets good damage from it. But this was a good fight here. This is good skirmishing here. And here we're doing a lot of good stuff. So I'm really happy with where this is going here. And again, I got him stuck in side turn. I evaded him successfully, and so I was able to kind of with recovery hit him. Alright, third round. This one's gonna go by a bit fast, but there's a lot of good stuff that's happening here. So okay, so here's the thing. I'm gonna show this tech here. Okay, Jean's 6-6P is really good, of course. Amazing move, right? And so we go. Boom, 6-6p. So good. When you get hit by 6-6p, you can only guard high, guard low, or not guard at all, but you can't really do anything except for standing or crouching and guarding or not guarding. Because of the, like, unless Jean moves, but as long as Jean doesn't attack right away, as long as he doesn't attack right away, you've pretty much got to choose how to guard it. You can't hop, you can't evade, you can't attack. This thing makes it so you only can defend. This is one of those few times in VF where really you're really stuck waiting your turn because of the rules of what happens when this move hits. Now in this case, he's gonna go low and I'm gonna guess high. I'm gonna guess mid, and so I do a standing guard and I lose to 2k. Now he gets a counter hit when he hits, so this state also, it's gonna counter hit. So now he's +4 with this low kick. Technically, actually he can just do 2kk and then he can do Okizeme, the type of Okizeme we talked about before. Instead, he does this play that is popular with some players, but you gotta understand the risks of this play. If I see that you're doing 2kk, I'm just gonna assume that with 2kk, nothing will happen. Like 2kk, I can attack and it's not going to change the outcome now. I know I got hit by this, so I could probably attack assuming that you might try to do something like that. Now you should do a mid attack that is about 16 frames or faster, like 4k. He should do 4k here, but I think he's going to choose to do throw. And here's the problem with throw. I hit an attack because I gave up on the situation, and so I figured why not, and boom, it stopped him, right? It stopped him. So let's rewind. This encourages you to do more like do the attack, actually, to do the 4k option here. So we're gonna say okay, boom, and we're gonna say we're gonna try to take over and do low kick into 4k. Okay, we're gonna try that. Right, and this is really good. This would be a better outcome, but because now throw is not a terrible option, but your opponent has to be thinking a throw, and a player like me is probably just going to attack and try to crush. Like I could do Sabaki against the kick. 4k would lose to the Sabaki. All right, so let's we can just do another 6-6p. So let's do that. Let's do the 2k into 6-6p. All right, that wasn't it. See, that would be really good. That would be a lot more damage. Let's try it again. I screwed that up. Right, and now we're in another guessing game. So, and let's try that again. So, and this is like the health is almost all gone, right? So just some options here. Understand that your opponent might do something like a crush. So how do we deal with crush? We do a mid attack. So really, he should do a mid attack or throw. Throw is fine choice, but I would lean more on the attack. I would lean more on the attack, and in fact, I might even do some other stuff too. But this is just a deeper understanding of the options here and where your opponent says, "F it, I'm just gonna low punch, or I'm gonna 8k here." Right? The 8k would be the low attack. The low punch is gonna beat. All attacks are gonna beat throw, and the low punch is gonna beat like a high attack, just in case he does that. But you can make him pay for it. Now 6k is not going to work at +4, but let's see how fast I buffered this low punch though. Let's see how fast I buffered it. That's not so good. It worked because I was slow in responding, right? But then okay, I think I did that. Okay, see, so this is like the expected results. Low punch would have had this result. So again, now let's rewind it further and let's talk about, let's say let's show that 2kk option. Okay, let's show the 2kk now, right? And then we can do the Okizeme that we talked about earlier. So we're back to doing this, right? This is what, like, that 2kk is not a bad thing, right? And then we can go in and we can sweep. You know, we can do a lot of stuff, but we can also just like watch and be like, okay, we think that. Very strong, and a third of his life is gone just from doing that. So wanted to give an idea of powerful plays, and in this case I would actually just exert just more mid-low mix-up, probably, like, you know, but it's an interesting case. But if you go for that 2k, then I think you have some powerful mids and you can really threaten the player, and you can watch what they do if they do counter those. But there is a risk, of course, they could evade and punish some of those things, but the 4kp is pretty good because of that. It's just worried about the sabaki on the 4kp. Alright, let's go back and watch the rest of this fight. So here, I do want to highlight this, but I'm not going to stress it too much. If you do high jab, and you're going to be +9 when you counter hit with it, or this is because I stood up into it. It's actually normally +8. In this case, like, I attacked into it, I was crouched, and so I'm getting hit by the second hit frame of this jab. That's a little bonus, but let's just say normally it's +8. +8, you can do a 20 frame attack. And here I'm going to evade. So again, what would we do if we had counter hit with this jab? Let's do this, and let's see if this replay takeover works with jab. We're going to do jab sweep. It's hard. All right, let's make sure we get the counter hit. Yeah. Okay, replay takeover. Sweep. Right? Just like we talked about before. Right? Right, and let's do, we can also do delay kick. And here's a fun way to do delay kick. Do 446k. But it's kind of hard because you gotta wait, right? So you do more of a backdash. But let's also do, delay attack is another way to beat sidestep. And then let's do throw, right? So again, if we eventually get good at knowing when we're going to counter hit. Now for me, this would be a hard counter hit to see, only because the opponent stood up into it. Like, they crouch and then they attack too early. That's what I did, and I got counter hit for that. If you see the attack animation, then maybe you'll know that this thing is happening. But eventually, the stun is enough that you have enough time to react in the future, but that's a long-term goal. It's not an immediate one. This takes like 6 months of playing before you start seeing these things in real time. But just want to emphasize, when any of your basic core attacks, high jab, low jab, elbow, counter hit, your opponent is in Nitaku. You get to force this mid-throw guessing game, and it's so powerful. And John is very good at just making opponents have to like he's just very good at assaulting people, really. So anyways, that's okay. Work within your comfort zone. This is still fine. This was really good. He evaded the uppercut. Now if you evade uppercut, it's a really faster recovering attack, so generally you want to do something like P plus K or PK. So this 6k might get evaded. It does get evaded. Now technically I have enough advantage to punish him, but I don't think I do. But I do sweep. But normally I could definitely punish that knee by evading it. This is going to end the game. Now, in this case, I don't expect anyone to know that the ring out was over here, and that I used a very slow attack intentionally to try to catch someone like this, and then I did set up a win. So it's what it is. But he played fine. He played very well in that round. Honestly, Kasana's doing a lot of good stuff. We're just talking about ways to improve the damage, and we improve the damage by doing things like applying the Nitaku when we get it with the elbow. Even when we get the high punch in the future, we want to be able to do that. If we get a red spark on a high jab, we want to go ahead and do Nitaku. If they evade the high punch, then it's low punch or elbow. Elbow is actually a fine one, because if they guard, we can do elbow. Basically, a lot of times you can do high punch in the elbow almost automatically, just because the chance of them guarding it or evading it or even getting normal hit by it makes it so that the elbow is pretty secure. The only time we're in trouble for doing that is if they ducked it and then just like attacked right away, or we whiffed with it, and even then it's hard for them to retaliate. It is actually hard for them to punish you for whiffing your high jab. So high jab is very secure, and so get used to the 1-2 of Virtua Fighter. High punch, elbow. Let's do punch, guard cancel it so you don't do punch string, and then do forward and punch. So PG, forward P, PG, 6P, PG, 6P. P and G is not the same time. It's punch, and then you tap guard just to say, hey, I'm not going to do a string, 6P, so I can just right away input it. I don't have to wait. If you wait, you're going to be too slow. And techniques like that I do, the stepping I do is going to beat you for being slow. One of the reasons I use the movement I do is it punishes people that are being slow. So commit to that. Commit to... Now with the elbow, you need to, or the high punch, you need to watch to see if they attack. If you see them starting to attack when you've already done your high punch or your elbow, that's when you'll sort of see the counter hit before it happens. But you can, counter hits, you can actually react by seeing the spark. But I do encourage you to kind of, while you're getting better at doing that, also just know in the back of your mind that you are trying to watch your opponent before your attack even lands and try to predict, make a very good educated prediction about how it's going to hit. It's really important in VF. This game plays at very fast speed. And if you build this skill, you will be so much stronger for it. It's a huge advantage to have this skill. It's not perfect, but it's very, very strong. And it allows you to make decisions sooner. You're not necessarily trying to react faster. You're just trying to react a little sooner. You're trying to gain information sooner. You're using the time before a hit to make a prediction, and then when the hit happens, you can confirm it better. It's not mutually exclusive. You can build this skill while also building your hit confirm skill. They go together. Finally, again, with Kusano, really important to stress about the Okizeme. I was going to show the other video or the other replay, but I think this replay we covered it. I think we covered all the topics I wanted to talk about here. In the other video, it just would have shown more of the same, but I think we've been able to illustrate how important it is to use the Nitaku when we get it. And with elbow, we get it on crouch hit, and we get it with counter hit. So we want to improve our ability to capitalize, to throw them or do a strong mid, or a safe but really good mid with really good upside when we get that counter hit or that crouch hit with the elbow. With high punch, we want to do it when we get the counter hit, and with low punch, we want to do it when we get the counter hit. So whenever you see a red spark anytime, you pretty much can do Nitaku. And with the elbow, you're also looking to see if they're crouching before you hit them. If you see them crouching when they're about to get hit, then you can kind of just go for it. It's very strong play. Finally, Jean has very strong Okizeme. So I think if Kusano starts putting in the Okizeme, putting in the work to getting used to doing it, he's going to be on track to really putting a lot of pressure on his opponents. It's going to affect their decision making. It's going to make it harder for them, and it's going to give him momentum, because he's going to be forcing them to guess all the time. And John is very good at making people feel like they have to guess all the time. Even when he's spaced out, it feels like you kind of have to guess sometimes because of moves like 6-6P coming in so fast and hitting you and forcing you now to guess, mid or low. So keep it that way. Keep working on it, Kusano. You're doing great. And I hope everybody that watched this enjoys this video. I think we were able to cover the topics for today. So thank you all very much for watching REVO Reviews by Chanchai's Dojo, and I hope you guys have a good one. Happy VFing. Keep it up. Keep working at it. Stay humble so that you can keep getting stronger. Never stop getting stronger. There's always something better you can be doing. Myself included, there's so many things I could be doing better. I'm going to keep working at it, and I hope you do too. Cheers.